Occurred, the 10th of September 2018, 2100 location, Reelsville, in shape, circle duration. Several minutes craft-like object, rectangular projection on a circular object. Animal reactions. Witness noticed Venus, following the sunset, and Saturn, in the SSW, were very bright as he arrived home. As usual, his neighbor's dog, a large but very friendly, female, pit bull mix, was there to greet him. After watching Venus for a moment, he saw, a few degrees off, what looked like a huge band of lights, white surrounded by red, began flashing and moving in his direction. As soon as the flashing began, the dog seemed frightened, whining, repeatedly bumping his legs and jumping up to push on his chest. When the object was almost directly overhead, the lights changed to all white and flashing sequentially from rear to front. At that point, a soft gold color glow defined the edges, giving him the shape he tried to illustrate. The object silently continued east until lost behind a stand of trees. As soon as the object was out of sight, the dog made a short huffing sound, looked at him for a moment, then, seeing no reaction, calmly went home. He noticed something else. He has raccoons in his attic space. They are usually active from dusk till dawn. At that time, it was strangely quiet up there, an hour after the event.
Occurred, September 15, 1990, 1800 location. Greencastle, west of, in shape, other duration. 5 to 10 minutes, a silver metallic hockey puck-shaped object just hanging in the daytime sky. This sighting occurred during full daylight, in a beautiful blue near cloudless sky. I was traveling north on a popular rural route, Manhattan Road, in western Putnam County, when I noticed an object up in the sky probably many miles ahead of me at an altitude of several thousand feet. My first impression was it must be a balloon, but very quickly knew it was not one as it was completely motionless in the sky. While it was a fairly serene day, obviously anything in the sky such as a balloon at that altitude would have been moving at least a little bit. Since it was in the sky ahead of me, I was able to try to watch it for several minutes, maybe as much as 10 minutes. But because I had a commitment that I had to be at, I couldn't stop, and of course I didn't have a camera to take a picture of it. The entire time I was viewing it, it never seemed to move. Rather, it just hung there motionless in the air. I have never to this day have seen anything that could just stay motionless in the air, except this one object I saw in broad daylight. The best way to describe the shape of it is to compare it to a hockey puck. It appeared flat on two sides and perfectly circular in shape. The color was silver metallic. I couldn't make out any features such as windows or engine ports. The object's surfaces seemed perfectly smooth. While it looked like a hockey puck, it didn't lie flat in the sky, but was tilted at about 30 degrees. Once again, nothing about the appearance of the object during the time that I observed it changed. It never rotated on its own axis or moved in the sky. It was clear to me that it was some kind of solid object, and not something celestial in the sky I was looking at. It finally was out of my view after driving about 15 miles, but when I was able to take a peek behind me in the sky, it was still there. I am an open-minded person, but always look for a logical solution first. This sighting to this day still has me baffled as to what could just hang in the sky.
Occurred, June 15, 2007, 000 location, Greencastle. In shape, other duration, 5 minutes. In June of this year, my father witnessed an unidentified flying object over our house. It was close to midnight, the weather was fair, and there were almost no clouds in the sky. We live outside of town in a very rural area, with few other houses nearby. My father stepped outside to smoke a cigarette and let our dog answer nature's call. I was inside and did not witness the event, but the doors and windows were open, so I could hear whatever this was. After being outside for 10 minutes, the dog started to bark in the direction of the woods behind our house. Then, a gigantic craft appeared from behind the tall trees in our backyard. It was roughly 150 yards long, 50 yards wide, and Y-shaped. The craft was flying 200 yards above the ground. It was accompanied by a very deep, low-frequency rumble, hum. Moving very slowly from west to southeast, it was clearly visible for 5 minutes, and eventually moved off out of sight. My father then came inside and gave me a description of this craft. The dog was still shaking and refused to go outside for the next few days. My father is a skilled outdoorsman and has excellent eyesight, especially at night. The craft was below the clouds, so his view was unobstructed. The next week, my father and I were both inside the house. We had the doors open. Around midnight, we heard the same deep sound this craft made, moving over our house. Again, it moved from the west to the southeast. We did not witness it this time.
Occurred the 1st of July 2011, 2240 location. Greencastle, in shape, light duration, 35 seconds characteristics. There were lights on the object, small light that turns on huge spotlight with images in center of spotlight. I was looking at the stars and saw light that was very small going across the sky. I thought it was a plane, but there were no blinking lights. All of a sudden, the small light turned on a spotlight that was 100 times larger than the small light. It then moved the spotlight to the east where I could barely see the light. When it turned back towards me, there was a dark hourglass shade in the middle of the spotlight. It then blinked and the hourglass was gone. It was then just the huge spotlight. It then turned off the spotlight and there was the small light again. It then just kept going across the sky like it was a satellite moving across the sky. I thought it was a plane that turned on its landing light, but this craft made no noise and there were no blinking lights on it at all.
Occurred August 15, 2019, 0000 location, Greencastle, in shape, formation duration, 20 minutes. Formation of red and green lights that split up, started to descend close to the ground, then shot back up and disappeared. My cousin took pictures of them. They were red and green balls of lights in the night sky. The green ones followed the red ones. They were in a formation at one time, then separated and looked like they were starting to land. But then they shot straight back up and disappeared.
Occurred April 26, 2020, 2200 location, Greencastle, in shape, light duration, a long line of lights in characteristics. There were lights on the object. Saw a line of lights in the sky, northwest corner of our property. Freaked, ran in, got my husband, and we watched at least 20 perfectly spaced light go up and disappear one by one. It was like they were on a string. A few minutes later we say the exact same thing. I am kinda in shock right now.
Occurred September 19, 2003, 2030 location, Cloverdale, in shape, other duration. 5 seconds. We were driving to my grandparents' house when spotting a large red light surrounded by at least 10 small circles.
Occurred the 7th of April 2010, 2230 location, Cloverdale, in shape, fireball duration, 5 minutes approximately. Characteristics: there were lights on the object, a slow-moving flame with cupped milky vertical white disk behind it. First saw it slowly rising up above trees. Then it went slowly northeast across the sky until it was out of our sight. It looked like a yellow-orange flame with a milky white, cupped circular shape behind it. It didn't appear very large, not sure how high it was. At first we thought it was some type of a fireworks that had been sent up, but it kept moving and staying just as bright. It appeared to really move slow. Spotted near the Stardust Hills Clubhouse parking lot.
Occurred April 23, 2009, 2324 location. Fillmore, in shape, triangle duration, 15 seconds. This incident occurred 2 weeks exactly after first contact with MUFON, in which an investigation into a strange circle I found in a nearby field was going on. On the evening of the last time I had contact with the MUFON field investigator, who had also brought the Indiana State Director with him, I had gone for a walk that evening. I first need to mention here so that later on something I'm going to say will be understood. I live in a rural area of Putnam County with plenty of wildlife, including owls, in which a few weeks prior to this incident I saw an owl that had landed in the grass on the side of the road around the corner leading out of my circle, the neighborhood. Now to the sighting. On or about the 23rd of April, I went for a nightly walk to the marina on the lake where I live. Upon returning to my circle at about 11:15, plus or minus, instead of turning directly to the left to return to my home, I decided I would walk around the full circle then return to my home. Directly to the west, in which was the direction I was facing and walking toward, I could see that a very light cloud front was heading to the northeast. To my left was what I remember was a full moon. Where I was still clear. I got within 10 foot of the driveway of the second house in my circle and saw a shadow coming from my left. It was at this point that the first thing came to my mind. I was being swooped on by an owl. Or so I thought. I proceeded to duck down and was looking out. As I looked up, I expected to see the wings of an owl. Instead, I saw what I can only describe as a gigantic triangle craft moving quite fast due west in the direction I was walking towards. This craft had no lights. At first I thought it hadn't made any sound, but reflecting on it, it actually made a sound like aluminum foil being vibrated, not a rattle, but like aluminum vibrating from sound waves, like how they tune the front and back plates of a violin. I could tell this craft was just slightly above the oncoming cloud front that was moving in. I was so glued on it before it got to the clouds that I can't say if it was blocking out the stars. I would have to assume it was. This happened so fast, but one thing struck me then as it does now. I saw nothing out of my peripheral vision on my left side. But that's where I saw the initial shadow come from. This means something passed directly in front of the moon during this event. Either this craft was coming in from a southwesterly direction, made a sharp turn to fly right over my head just to travel due west, or there were two of these objects and I only saw one. I will say this from just looking out my front door at the clouds. As high as this object was, I'd say you could land about 747 jets on top of it and likely still have room for more. That is not an overestimate. I did not make an official report through MUFON at the time of this sighting. I was being called daily by the producers of a UFO-related TV series. One was out and out asked to lie a film and say that I had witnessed a UFO land in a field and create the circle. I found I at that point lost faith in objective investigations into UFO-related sightings at that point. I've since witnessed at least 40 other events on and off since this sighting, but nothing as close as this event. It was only after I had walked around my circle here that I noticed air traffic again. It was almost as if it was planned to be this way, as I saw no jets when this object was making its way over my head and off to the west. My only question is, with it being a moonlit night, how did this thing go unnoticed? Because this was not a small object.
Occurred January 29, 2002. 2217 Location: Rochdale. In shape: disc characteristics: there were lights on the object. There was an aura or haze around the object. The object emitted beams. It had different colored lights that lighted up in a pattern. It was round and it was about 25 feet away from the ground. It stopped, then a blue ray of light that picked something up and then went away.